when you say Bitcoin is fairer, how has that impacted your life?
I'd say I have a reasonable sense of justice.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know whether that was kind of innate or whether it was a product of, family values and conditioning through the education system. But it does stick in my craw that you can have these bankers and finance types and others that kind of lord it over the people who you might say do the real work. The people who are firefighters, emergency response people, farmers, tradespeople of all stripes. Exactly. Like, they sort of deliver the everyday things that energy producers. They deliver things that are genuinely of great value to all of us in our modern, comfortable lives, and they get out and they have to earn it, and often it's pretty hard work. They're kind of lorded over and disadvantaged relative to some hedge fund manager or banker who's sitting there just being closer to, you might say, the money spigot. So the creation of new money, there are layers of how close you are to that, and you will benefit tremendously more if you are closer to the money printer than if you're further away. You'll get access to the new money first. You'll get far better credit terms. And so you can make a lot more money as a business, as an individual, and it's really just not justified. It's so unfair. So that sort of sticks in my craw, that kind of thing. And I think that if you have a monetary system that is more fair, where no organisation or person has the ability to create money out of thin air for their own benefit, it kind of gives a much more fair opportunity for people of all stripes and all careers to be able to make money and save money. And it just removes a lot of distortions that are in the current world and the current economy.
It's very interesting, isn't it? It's that, like, when I think of justice, it takes me in lots of directions, and some part of it is innate, isn't it? You can just tell. It's like that person. There was always that person at school that would lie and cheat, and you know who they've ended up being, right? And there was another person that had a sense of integrity that you could rely on in certain situations, and that was completely natural, right? I mean, put aside school as a discussion on a natural place to be or not. Maybe that's another way we can go. I'll jot that down.
Let's go.
That's very interesting to me, isn't it? And so people like yourself, and I feel similar in many ways. Now, are we right or wrong? That's probably another discussion altogether. But like, it feels very right to me to be drawn towards this idea of rules, not rulers. And there's that amazing Rothschild quote about, "I care not who wins an election. Give me the power to run the money supply, and I don't care about your law." And it's like, this has been going for hundreds of years.
It's been going on forever, mate. Like, since antiquity, the kings and princes had intellectual, advisors, court advisors, who would effectively justify why printing money, clipping coins in various forms, basically cheating the people out of a fair monetary system, why that was necessary and morally correct. Now, these days, since, say, the 20s, that's all Keynesianism. So it's all cloaked in this absolute garbage of mind-numbing equations and theory, none of which makes any logical sense whatsoever. But in the economics profession, you don't get a job, you don't get a professorship. You've got no chance of anything unless you subscribe to this Keynesian religion. And all it is just our modern version of the kings and princes, being the governments and central banks. And we can go into the Rothschilds and above of who really is potentially pulling the puppet strings. It's just their intellectual cloaking of printing money for their own benefit. So nothing's changed over the millennia. Just the form is different now.
And I think of it as just a classic case of getting something for nothing.
Mhm.
And that is a self-interest within all humans that is totally natural. And there's just a certain type of person, a certain group of legacy families that have figured it out, right? And they just continue to do so. It's quite extraordinary. Okay, so without let's continue to do that. So why is central banking such a problem?
Yeah, well, just on that comment you made before, humans forever have never been able to resist the temptation of printing money. So if you put me in charge of the money printer, we're talking about, Lord of the Rings, Frodo's got the ring. All right, it's very hard to resist that temptation. So why don't we just have a system where the temptation's gone? There's no human that is, that has the ability to create more money or to control the monetary system. Totally removes that temptation. So in terms of why that's done, I think it definitely is to sort of create something for nothing, and it gets deep into human psychology, and it gets kind of pretty dark in terms of, I guess, that kind of element of evil that's in our world and is in every human. There's sort of the light and the darkness, and you might say it seems that the people who are able to harness the control of the money supply perhaps are more minded or persuaded or innately drawn to the kind of evil side of controlling other human beings. And effectively, we have a system of slavery, being the modern system of money. And I like to point out to people that, say you go back to slavery in the American colonies. So you worked all day, you did not get paid, but you got food and board. So, you got something out of it. You're a slave. I don't think there's any debate that people put up these days that was, unfair and morally wrong. The modern person, take, for example, Australia, and you can look at different setups around the world, but take Australia where we are. If you're earning any sort of reasonable salary as a wage earner, you're losing, 40% plus in income taxes. You're losing 10% of sales tax on everything you spend. We have taxes on alcohol, tobacco. We have all sorts of luxury taxes on luxury cars and other specific items. All sorts of regulations, fees. Where do you even start? Capital gains, it's a ripper. And then, of course, the big hidden one that people don't really grasp or obviously never been taught about is inflation. So if the Australian monetary supply is inflating by 15% per annum, that is 15% of hidden theft of all of your savings just off the bat. So when you add up all of those things, you might be somewhere near, I say, 80% of what you earn. That's not, and yes, you get your food and board, right? You got to pay your food and board out of the other 20%. So I think we're not that far away when you do those numbers from the system of slavery that existed in the American colonies.
And to add into that mix as well, the time required for those maths, for those figures to make sense, you get 22 days holiday a year plus weekends. So you're basically working all year.
Yeah.
I mean, I say all year, like weekends actually adds up to quite a lot of days, right? But it's still, there's only so much you can do outside of the time when you're in a fiat employment contract. It basically takes all of your primary energy resources and your parenting skills, for example, or your own health and physical well-being is put to the side in favor of this fiat contract first. And it's interesting as well because the word slavery is so triggering.
Mm-hmm.
And people it's like saying that Melbourne was a medical apartheid, which it was for a period of time.
It certainly was.
And they're like, oh, you can't say that. It's like, well, it's not true.
I
mean, so maybe saying, we're all we're all fiat slaves as your opening statement at a dinner party isn't the way to go. But here, when we're on a podcast, we can talk about what the fuck we want. So